If as a beginner you're still struggling to sew anything asymmetric, be it an asymmetric neckline or an asymmetric hemline, in today's video I'm going to be explaining it in details in such a way that you'll be able to sew anything asymmetric. Hey guys, welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Mirabel, and in today's video I'm going to be showing you how to cut this dress. So the first thing you're going to need is your pattern paper, and you're going to be placing it on fold like this. Whenever you want to sew anything asymmetric, just bear it at the back of your mind that your pattern paper has to be on fold, especially as a beginner. Then after that, you're going to go ahead and mark out your bust line. And then for your chest line, you go 2 inches above your bust line, which is your chest line. You also mark your waistline measurements. For this video, I'm using my back waistline measurements. So I'm using 15 inches because I don't want any bulginess at the back of the dress. And then I'll mark my hip line measurement, which is 24 inches. Sorry, it did not show, but you're going to be seeing the hip line later on. Then after that, I'll go ahead and mark half of my shoulder measurement. I'll also mark it on the chest line. And from this point, I'll go down by 1 inch and I'll connect it to the chest line like this. Then after that, I'm going to mark my neck width measurement, which is 3 inches, and I'll connect it to that 1 inch point to draw the shoulder. I'll go down by 3 inch for my neck depth, and I'll connect it to the neck width with a French curve like this. And with this, we have drawn the first neckline, even though we'll be adjusting it later on in the video. And after that, I'll divide my bust measurement by 4. I'll mark it on the chest line, and then from here I'll divide this line by 2. I'll mark it there, and I'll go in by ½ inch. And with my French curve, I'm going to connect it from the shoulder through the ½ inch point all the way to the bust line. And then for the back armhole, I'm going to connect it from that point all the way to the chest line. So this will be for the front armhole, and then the other one will be for the back armhole. I'll be using the same pattern to cut for both the back and the front, and that's why I have 2 different armhole right here. So on the waistline, I'm going to go ahead and mark quarter of my waist measurement. That is, I'll divide my waist by 4 and I'll mark it. While on the hip line, I'll divide my hip by 4 and I'll mark it on the hip line measurement, on the hip line. Then after that, with my rule, I'm going to connect it from the chest line to the waistline, and I'll connect it down to the hip line. You can curve it using your hip curve, but right now I'm using my straight rule. Then after that, for the length of this particular dress, I'll be going down by 3 inches from the hip line. That is how long I want the dress to be. So it's just dependent on the style. I'm trying to recreate the style, and that's why I went down by 3 inches. And with this, we are done with the drafting of the dress pattern. So before I cut out the neckline for the front, I'm going to just draw out the neckline for the back. I went down by 1 inch from this point, and I connected it using my French curve. And with this, I'll just cut it out like this. So I'm cutting out the armhole for the back as well, first and foremost, because I'll be using this same pattern to cut the back. So by the time you open it up, this is what it looks like. So at this point, I'm going to place this pattern paper on the fabric, and I'm going to be cutting for the back first. So to cut for the back, I'm going to be adding 1 inch for zipper allowance. I'll add ½ inch to the neckline. I didn't add at this point, but please make sure you add ½ inch to your neckline, ½ inch to the armhole, and 1 inch to the side seam. Then after that, you're going to remove this pattern paper from the fabric, and you're going to continue drafting for the front pattern. So at this point, I'm going to open the pattern paper up like this, and this is what we have. So this is where I'm going to be marking out my asymmetric neckline. So you're just going to extend the lines, the chest line, the bust line, and the neckline on the other side of the pattern paper as well. So at this point now, you're going to decide where you want the asymmetric neckline design to be. It had to be on the right side or on the left side. So wherever you decide, from that point, you're going to go in by 1.5 inches. That is away from the neck width, you mark 1.5 inches. Then from this point, you use your straight rule to connect from that 1.5 inch all the way to the chest line, drawing a straight line. So this straight line should be about 4 inches or 5 inches away from the shoulder. So depending on how deep you want the neckline to be. Then from this 5 inches point, I'll use my French curve to connect it from this point all the way to the neckline at that point. So I'm just going to be joining it to the neckline on the other side like this. So with this, we are basically done with the drafting of the asymmetric neckline. So after drafting out the asymmetric neckline, I'm going to go ahead to draft out the asymmetric hemline. So you decide where you want this to be as well. So from this point, I'm going to go down by 4 inches from that point. On the waistline, I'm going to mark 2 inches away from the side seam. So with my French curve now, I'm going to connect it from the waistline all the way to the armhole like this, while I'll use my straight rule to connect it down to the hip line like this. So you can use your straight rule or you can use your French curve if you want it to be curvy, but I rather it's straight, so I'm using my straight rule. So from the waistline, I'm going to go down by 3 inches and I'll mark it at this point. That is where I want that slit to start from. So from here, this is the midpoint of the dress. So from the midpoint, I'm going to go out by 1.5 inch away from the midpoint, and I'm going to connect it to that 3 inches point like this. So with this now, I'm going to connect from that 1.5 inch point all the way to about 2 inches above the hip line. So I'll just connect it like this. So basically there is no, like I said, there's no standard measurement for this. I'm just trying to recreate what we have on the thumbnail, and that's why I'm using these measurements. So at this point, I'm just going to extend this line like this. So from the hip line, I'm going to mark 2 inches as well above the hip line. I'll mark it on that straight line point. And with my French curve, I'm going to connect it from that 2 inches point all the way to the 4 inches point that we marked out earlier. Remember, we marked 4 inches first before any other thing. So at this point, I've actually gone ahead to cut it out. I didn't know that it was not filming, so I had to tape everything back so that I will show you exactly how to cut it. So you're going to cut through that 4 inches point all the way to the 2 inches points, and then you connect it all the way. That is, you cut it through all the way to the armhole like this. So by the time you're done cutting, this side should be out and it should be separate from the other pattern paper. Then from here now, you're going to cut it through to that 3 inches point that we marked out earlier. Remember, we marked 3 inches point. It's a little bit confusing, but just pay attention to what I'm doing. Just look very well, you understand. So with this now, we have successfully draft out the asymmetric hemline for this particular dress. So this is a 3 inches point that we marked out, and this is the waistline. So just make sure you trace it out on both sides of the pattern paper, that is both on the left side and on the right side. The essence of this is when we are placing it on the fabric to cut, we want to know exactly where we are going to be joining the left side of the fabric to the right side, okay, because we are going to be notching that particular point on the fabric. So yeah, that's basically what this pattern paper is supposed to look like. So the next thing now is we are going to be doing a slash and spread on the bigger side of the pattern paper. So first and foremost, I'm going to extend my waistline to the other side, just like we have been extending the lines to the other side. I'm going to do the same thing on the waistline, and I'm going to label the hip line as well. So now on this point, I'm going to divide this between the waistline and the bust line. I'm going to divide it into 2, and I'll connect it drawing a straight line like that. So with this now, I'm going to be using this to slash it open. I will not slash it all the way open. I'll just slash it all the way to the extreme end of the side seam of the other side, okay. and then now I'm going to be opening it up on the fabric. So in my next video, I'm going to be showing you exactly how you are going to be spreading this on the fabric so that you cut exactly what we have on the thumbnail and you'll be able to sew it together. And I will show you how to sew everything together. So that's basically all for today's video. At this point, I've sewn it. In my next video, I'll be explaining it in details. Thank you.